Show on the Padres Radio Network.
Jackson swings, hits it in the air, deep to right field. He has done it again. Unbelievable.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt.
Ultimately, what we're here to do is win.
From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today, the Padres take on the Cincinnati Reds in the final game of a three-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Reds, left-hander Nick Lodolo, and for the Padres, right-hander Stephen Kolek. Hi again, everyone. Sam Levitt with you from inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up in Cincinnati in the rubber game of this series at 10:40 a.m. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also hear from Padres reliever Bryan Hoeing. We'll check in with Gwyn Jr. inside the broadcast booth, our keys to the game, and much, much more to do for a little Padres and pancakes on this Sunday. But first, it's time to set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products. Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres entered today 45-37. They enter the day tied for the final wild card spot in the National League. Padres have won each of their last 2 series. They aim for a 3rd consecutive series win today. Meanwhile, the Reds come in 43-40. They enter today 2.5 games out of a wild card spot. Reds are 13-7 in their last 20 games. Well, yesterday's game didn't start well for the Padres, but they used the long ball to battle back. Let's rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
Padres were trailing 3-0 going to the top of the 5th inning. It was Luis Arraez who led off.
One pitch, and Arraez hits it in the air to deep right field. Hines is going back at the wall. He looks up. It's going to go about halfway up the stands in right field for Luis Arraez. His 4th home run of the season. And the Padres are on the board. It's 3-1.
Cincinnati reliever and former Padre Scott Barlow came in for the top of the 6th inning. Reds leading 4-1 at this point. Jose Iglesias hit a leadoff single. Jake Cronenworth was next.
One of the Cronenworth hit in the air to deep right field. Hines is going back on the warning track at the wall, looking up, gonna go! 2-run homer, Jake Cronenworth, and a 1-run game here in the 6th inning.
In the 7th inning, Jackson Merrill hit a leadoff double. Xander Bogaerts drew a 1-out walk to put runners on 1st and 3rd. The tying and go-ahead runs on base. It brought up Gavin Sheets.
The pitch, Gavin swings, hits it in the air, deep to right field. This one is way back, gonna go! Gavin Sheets, a 3-run home run. His 3rd extra base hit of the day, and a no-doubter to give the Padres their first lead of the afternoon. It's 6-4.
Adrian Morejon delivered a 1-2-3 bottom of the 7th inning. Jason Adam retired the side in order in the 8th inning. Padres still led 6-4 going to the bottom half of the 9th inning. Robert Suarez came on. Reds made some noise. There were 2 on and 2 out for the Reds. Spencer Steer.
Suarez delivers and a swing and a miss. Blew him away with a 101 mile per hour fastball. And this game goes to the Pods.
Very nice win for the Padres, bouncing back after losing in Friday's game. It sets up the rubber match of this 3-game series here today. After today, Padres continue their 6-game road trip, a 3-game series beginning against the Philadelphia Phillies in Philadelphia tomorrow. But first things first pitch coming up at 10:40 in Cincinnati. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can find me on X at Sammy Lev, SammyLev. Instagram DMs open as well. Sammy Lev there too. You can also comment on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube stream. Let me know who you are and where you're tuned in from. Little Padres and pancakes. So feel free to tell me how you're getting ready to enjoy Padres baseball on what is a beautiful Sunday morning here in San Diego. You got some toast, some pancakes, some waffles, some oatmeal. maybe a coffee, orange juice, apple juice, feel free to send a photo if you want. Let me know how you're enjoying Padres baseball on this Sunday. Let's go out to Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati.
Let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Tony Gwyn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Tony, yesterday was such an impressive day for Gavin Shildt in a variety of different ways. And I want to start with the defense because the catch he made to end the fifth inning, it was a huge play in yesterday's win. Not only did it save a run, but prevented that fifth inning from becoming an even bigger inning, maybe becoming an inning that put the game away. Let's start with that part of it for Gavin Shildt, Tony, because he is a guy who had played a little left field before this season, played a lot of right field, not a ton of left. What progression with Gavin have you seen from the defensive side over the course of the last couple of weeks?
I don't know that there's been a progression.
Mm-hmm.
I think people panicked when he had the incident in left field, and I think they thought the worst of it. But I think Gavin has always had the ability to play left, although he hasn't played a lot of it. He's a good athlete. He can move. He is not like, he's a slow individual. It was a terrific play, nonetheless. Going that in that deep corner, having to make that specific towards the line, it's not an easy play at all. It was a terrific play, but I just think what we've seen from Gavin is comfort. He's been out there a little bit more, therefore he's a little bit more comfortable, and he's able to show some of the athleticism he's had.
Let's talk about the offensive side because, Tony, this is becoming really quite the story. I mean, a guy on a minor league deal, he's on pace for 25 home runs, almost 100 RBIs. Yesterday in particular seemed significant, has the two doubles against the really tough lefty in Abbott. Then he has the home run to put the Padres ahead later. Tony, what do you make of the first half for Gavin Shildt and what he's done in a Padres uniform so far?
He's been terrific, and I think we all have to start acknowledging that this has been a sustained amount of time that he's put it together, and it hasn't been a straight line of consistency, but I've shown a lot that after some a few at bats, 7, 8, 9, 10 at bats without a hit, he strings together multiple hits typically to get himself right back into the thick of things, and I think that part has been consistent all year. He has yet to have a sustained slump at any point in time, and I think. Quite frankly, having his bat in the middle of the lineup has been huge, especially as the Padres offense has become really inconsistent as a whole. And so, he's had a phenomenal first half of the season, and certainly the Padres are hopeful it gets better from here.
Yeah, really, really great story he's becoming, Gavin Shildt. Stephen Kolek on the mound today for the Padres. This Reds offense, as of late, has been good. We saw them do it kind of in different ways. On Friday, it was via the home run ball. Spencer Steer, the huge game. Yesterday, even though they lost the game, early on, you and Jesse talked about it. It was doing what the Padres typically do, which is just passing along the baton, spraying it around the field. Against this Reds lineup in particular, Tony, what are the keys today for Stephen Kolek?
Quite frankly, I think it starts with TJ Friedl, like keeping him off the base paths. He has been able to be a problem through the first couple of games, and the Padres were able to kind of, keep it at bay. But when he's getting on, he was on the first 3 times of that game yesterday, and the Padres were able to keep him from scoring because they held down everybody else. I just think when you're able to kind of keep him off the board, it's their offense seems to feed off him getting on. I mean, he's in the top 10 on base percent. So I think it starts with keeping him off the base pass. I think that was, a part of the issue yesterday is he was kind of in the thick of things. Now, you got to give Randy a lot of credit. He was able to kind of navigate it, despite him not having his best stuff out there. But I think that's where it starts.
Tony, good insight as always. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 10:30 here in San Diego. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, that's Tony Gwyn Jr. joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show as we get ready for today's game. First pitch again coming up at 10:40 at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. This is an interesting Reds team. They're scoring a lot of runs. They've got some good young starting pitchers. They've got a veteran manager, future Hall of Fame manager in Terry Francona. I got a feeling this Reds team is going to hang around the wild card race most of this season. They're right in the mix right now. Padres again came into the day tied for the final wild card spot in the National League. The Reds entered today 2.5 games out of a wild card spot. So a game like today, very important for the Cincinnati Reds. And of course, as we get towards the very end of June and into July, these games all feel very, very important. A lot to do on our pregame coverage. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We also hear from Bryan Hoeing, who did a great job out of the Padres bullpen yesterday. And first time I think we've ever done this on our pregame coverage, we're going to do a little spring training flashback today. I don't think I've ever done this in my 4 seasons here on the pre and post game coverage, but we're going to try it out today, explore the space a little bit, little spring training flashback for you. We'll do that and more when we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. First pitch coming up at 10:40 in Cincinnati on the Padres Radio Network.
Stay
Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we continue to get ready for today's game between the Padres and the Reds. First pitch coming up at 10:40 in Cincinnati, rubber match of this 3-game series. Military Sunday on the Padres Radio Network is presented by your San Diego County Toyota dealers. Every new Toyota comes with Toyota Care, no cost maintenance standard, so you get peace of mind standard. As we get ready for today's game, let's hear from the Padres skipper.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
Day game after an evening game, so no pregame media availability today for Mike Shildt. So let's revisit what Mike had to say after yesterday's 6-4 win for the Padres. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but yesterday was a rarity for the Padres in the sense that they used the home run ball in a really frequent and efficient way. Padres hit 3 home runs yesterday, only the 5th time this season the Padres have hit 3 or more home runs in a game, and obviously a big part of coming back from down 3-0 and then 4-1. Gavin Sheets, the go-ahead 3-run home run in the 7th inning yesterday. Here was Mike Shildt after the game talking about the Padres power showcase yesterday in Cincy.
We talked about the importance of like what power could bring, but the bats you put together, wearing down Abbott, I assume that's something that you looked at today and said that got you to a point.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Listen, I mean, that guy threw the ball well, but you looked up, he's in the 5th, grinding on 95 and 95 pitches and good at bats. I mean, lefties, Sheets against the lefty, Louis against the lefty, Jackson great at bats. But yeah, a little bit of attrition, especially, sometimes with the environment the way it is. But, guys just kept going. We talked about actually for the game. Sometimes, you don't actually break through at that moment, but you're setting yourself up to break through later, and break through we did. Nice job by Louis, Crony, Jax, Sheetsy, and then the other guys took good at bats too to make him work.
What can you say about, like, last year you guys really exploded with the power later in the season? What can you say about what it can do for you? Because you have that in your guys.
Yeah, we definitely have it. I mean, we've seen what it does when it's on display. It's a tricky thing, power, because, in the era where, pull side homers, or nothing approach, a lot of times get you nothing. So balance it out, but balance it out with power.
And I assume that just like last year, you feel like that the line drive hitting, it eventually will lead to your guys.
I don't think there's any question. I mean, listen, it's a fairly proven deal. If you hit line drives, you use the whole field, and you stay on the baseball, and you make good swing decisions, and you have power, you're going to hit and you're going to get your power. If you're not making good swing decisions and you're looking for power and you're not staying on the baseball through the middle part of the field, you're going to get inconsistency.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt after yesterday's 6-4 win for the Padres against the Reds. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game coverage coming up later on this afternoon. Sam Levitt back with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 10:40. Couple of shout-outs to get to. We've got LFGSD Padres saying, hey, Sammy, tuning in from Encanto today, so appreciate that. We've got OTL Pierney on Twitter, on X, they call it these days, tuned in from Disneyland. Very cool photo from Disneyland. So we've got listeners from Disneyland on this Sunday. Very nice. That's a nice way to spend a day like this. Bright and sunny. And very, very good stuff all the way around. We appreciate everybody tuning in on this Sunday as we get ready for Padres baseball on the Padres Radio Network. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
Let's begin with a look at the hot category. We put Luis Arraez in there today. Luis is, or I should say, has a hit in 13 of his last 14 games, batting .323 in that span. Fernando Tatis Jr. in the not category. Fernando did have a single in yesterday's game, but you zoom out, he is only 4 for his last 39 in his last 11 games. Now, 2 of those hits have been home runs, but 4 for 39. in 11 games. Padres obviously need Fernando to do a little bit more than that. So he's in the not category today, and that's a quick look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for this series finale. Well, I told you we'd give you a little spring training flashback today. First time we've ever done anything like this on our pregame coverage. But as you know, if you tune into the station throughout February and March, you know that I every day am in Peoria, Arizona at Padres spring training, talking to guys and checking in here on the station, all the great content we have during spring training. We talked with Gwyn Jr. earlier about Gavin Shildt, this incredible year that Shildt is putting together. So far this season, Gavin Shildt now leads the Padres in RBIs at 49, 13 home runs, a .265 batting average, had 3 extra base hits yesterday, including a 3-run go-ahead home run in the 7th inning. And I wanted to flash back the spring training to a conversation I had with Gavin Shildt, because I really think to appreciate what Gavin Shildt has been this season, you have to put it in context. This is a guy that was DFA'd by the White Sox, the team he came up with, signs with the Padres on a minor league deal, shows up at spring training, and I don't know that a lot of us, thought he would necessarily make the opening day roster, but then all of a sudden starts hitting all these home runs during the Cactus League games and then kind of solidifies his spot, I would say, fairly early in spring training as somebody who would make this opening day roster. So it's interesting to kind of look back on the conversations we had back in spring, now knowing what we know months into the season. Here was part of my conversation during spring training with Gavin Shildt. Take a listen.
How do you feel right now at the plate at this point in spring?
Feel good. Excited about the work we've been putting in the cages, and obviously early on the results weren't there, but was just trusting the work, trusting what these guys were preaching, and obviously it's fun to see it start to translate to the games.
You mentioned the work that you're putting in the cages. What are some of the specific things that you've really honed in on since you've been here?
Yeah, trusting these guys, trusting what the Biomex has been saying and what Victor's been preaching, and getting to a better spot at launch, and just being able to get my ace swing off on every swing, and trusting the work we've been in there, that it was going to translate to games. And I'm super excited about what we've been working on.
From a power perspective, you talked early on in spring about that being something that you knew you could provide, power in the lineup and in whatever position in the lineup you're doing that now in spring. And really, you look at your numbers. I mean, throughout the course of your career, you've always provided a level of power. What do you feel like you would bring to this lineup kind of, day in, day out, if you had that opportunity?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is depth. I'm not going to be a guy that's going to hit third, fourth, or fifth of this team, and I completely understand that. But if I'm hitting the back of the lineup and can flip the lineup around to the superstars and get it going and just make the opposing pitchers have to go 1 through 9, I think that's a huge thing in this game. And then you turn around the lineup and you get Merrill and Tatis and Machado and those guys ready to roll at the top, and you wear the pitchers down. And that's what I want to do. I want to add depth to this lineup and whatever role it is, and hopefully can do that.
That was Gavin Shildt back in Peoria at spring training, talking about how all he wanted to do was add depth to the lineup. Well, Gavin has been far more than that for the Padres so far this season, talking about making adjustments. Whatever adjustments Gavin Shildt has made, they've worked in a major way. I mean, again, I talked about it with Tony a little bit earlier. Right now, he's on pace for 25 home runs, near 100 RBIs. Imagine somebody telling you that when he walked in the door at spring training on a minor league deal. Again, I just marvel at what this season has become for Gavin Shildt. And that was our first ever spring training flashback. Thought it would be a little cool to kind of revisit that conversation now, knowing what we know with how things have transpired here in the 2025 season. Nick is tuning in. He says he's about to walk with the kiddo to a local coffee shop and listening to the show. Nick and kiddo, we appreciate you tuning in. You know me, I love a local coffee shop, so that's always going to get read live on the air. We'll step aside. When we come back, we take a look at some headlines from around the major leagues. Plus, a little bit later, we hear from Padres reliever Bryan Hoeing. First pitch coming up at 10:40 in Cincinnati. Series finale between the Padres and the Reds coming up on the Padres Radio Network.
Hey, gang, it's Woodsy.
Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft. Since 1925, your water should be perfect. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up in Cincinnati at 10:40. We go out to Jesse and Tony at Great American Ballpark at 10:30. They'll have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play as the Padres go for a third consecutive series win in the rubber match of this three-game set against the Cincinnati Reds. Let's take you around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Well, we had some very sad news yesterday. Dave Parker, who won an MVP and a World Series championship in 1979 with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He spent 11 years in a Pirates uniform, won 2 batting titles. We learned of his passing yesterday, and he was also set to be inducted into Cooperstown next month. The 74-year-old, again, won a National League MVP with the Pirates and was a member of that 1979 We Are Family World Series team. So Major League Baseball across the game mourning the loss of Dave Parker, who, again, slated to be inducted into Cooperstown next month. So some very sad news there. Great player in Dave Parker. Other news from around Major League Baseball, the Rangers inducted Elvis Andrus into their Hall of Fame yesterday, somebody who was a big part of those very good Rangers teams earlier in the century. Very good player. Elvis Andrus played 1,605 games at shortstop for the Rangers over 12 seasons. He is the franchise leader with 305 stolen bases, ranked second in total games at bats, triple, sacrifice hits. So one of the real great players in Rangers history, Elvis Andrus, now in their Hall of Fame. Phillies first baseman Bryce Harper faced live pitching in Atlanta earlier today as he continues to work his way back after an injury to his right wrist. He went on the 10-day IL on June 6th. He traveled with the team to Atlanta, went through a workout this morning ahead of their game against the Braves. And it's notable for the Padres because the Padres go to Philadelphia next. So sounds like there is a possibility that Harper could be back for the series against the Padres beginning tomorrow. We'll see about that. And that's a look at some quick headlines from around the major leagues. Speaking of injuries, let's give you the latest on Yu Darvish.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Well, Yu Darvish threw 31 pitches in the bullpen yesterday, according to Mike Shildt. And Mike Shildt said the plan is for him to pitch in another simulated game in the coming week. Remember, Darvish threw 51 pitches in a sim game against players at Low A Lake Elsinore on Wednesday. So that is the latest on Yu Darvish. He is slated to pitch in another simulated game this coming week, and we'll see what the next step is after that, assuming that goes well for Yu Darvish. A quick look at our injury report on this Sunday. Nothing major to tell you about as far as the Padres lineup. As we know, Xander Bogaerts did miss Wednesday's game, but he's been back in there the last couple of days. Everybody else in there today for the Padres as well. And no real significant update today on Michael King on his progression. We know Michael continues to play catch, but no significant new news on Michael King. Let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by El Centro Motors Ford. Meet your new Ford General Manager, Greg Ryan, now at El Centro Motors Ford, your new Ford truck, Bronco, and SUV HQ. Call Greg directly at 619-944-0774.
Key number 1, stay homer happy. The Padres hit 3 home runs yesterday. It was the 5th time this season they've hit 3 or more homers, and the 2nd time they've done that this week. The Padres ranked towards the bottom of the majors still in home runs this season, just 72 through 82 games. Keep in mind, last year the Padres finished with 190 home runs. That was good for 10th in the majors. But we saw yesterday in particular the power of the home run. You hit the long ball, you score more runs. Everything gets a whole lot easier. We saw it yesterday. Can the Padres continue to hit it out of a hitter-friendly ballpark in Cincinnati? That's key number 1. Key number 2, more Merrill. Jackson Merrill had 2 hits yesterday after only in the last 2 games. He does have an on-base streak that's reached 11 games. Merrill has a .417 on-base percentage in that span. And speaking of home runs, would be nice to see Jackson Merrill hit one out today for the Padres, because you look at it for Jackson Merrill, he has not hit a home run in some time. He's not hit a home run since May 27th. The 82 at-bat drought for Jackson is nearing the longest of his career. Now, that career is only a season plus, but he's not hit a home run in a while, so would be nice to see Jackson hit one out today. More Merrill, that's key number 2. Key number 3, power of the pen. I'm going to give you a little tease on that one. We'll talk more about that when we return. Also, when we come back, we'll hear from Bryan Hoeing. We have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll tell you about one guy in this Reds lineup you got to keep an eye on, and also a full breakdown of today's starting pitching matchup between Stephen Kolek and Nick Lodolo. First pitch coming up at 10:40 in Cincinnati. More after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game. First pitch coming up at 10:40 between the Padres and the Cincinnati Reds. We go out to Great American Ballpark in Cincy in about 13 minutes, where we join Jesse Agler and Tony Gwyn Jr. We'll preview today's starting pitching matchup between Stephen Kolek and Nick Lodolo in just a little bit. We'll also hear from Padres reliever Bryan Hoeing, who did a very nice job out of the Padres bullpen yesterday. First, let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
We have only one game going on right now. Everything else is yet to begin. Cardinals leading the Guardians 3-0 in Cleveland in the fifth inning. They've got a rain delay already in Kansas City. Dodgers and the Royals are delayed before first pitch there. Everything else scheduled to begin a little bit later. Mets and the Pirates at 10:35 in Pittsburgh. On the mound for the Mets, Frankie Montas making his second start of the year in that one. A's and the Yankees in New York at 10:35. Luis Severino against Marcus Stroman in that one. Phillies and the Braves in Atlanta at 10:35. Good pitching matchup there. Ranger Suarez against Spencer Strider. Rays and the Orioles at 10:35 in Baltimore. Taj Bradley against Dean Kramer. Blue Jays and the Red Sox at Fenway at 10:35. Eric Lauer against Walker Buehler. Cubs and the Astros in Houston at 11:10. Jameson Taillon against Framber Valdez. Rockies and the Brewers in Milwaukee at 11:10. Herman Marquez on the mound for the Rockies, and it's Chad Patrick on the mound for Milwaukee. Giants and the White Sox at 11:10 in Chicago. Justin Verlander on the mound for the Giants. Jonathan Cannon on the mound for Chicago. Mariners and the Rangers in Arlington at 11:35 in I said Arlington. Mariners and Rangers at 11:35 in Arlington. Jack Leiter on the mound for Texas. Luis Castillo for Seattle. Nationals and the Angels in Anaheim at 1:07. Marlins and the Diamondbacks in Arizona at 1:10. Twins and the Tigers. Sunday Night Baseball at 4 p.m. That's one you should be interested in. Good matchup there. And Tarek Skubal on the mound for the Tigers in that one. 4 p.m. standalone game later on today. And that's a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Sunday across the major leagues. Well, during our Keys to the Game segment, I told you that one of my keys was power of the pen. Told you I would tell you more about that after the break. So let's dive into that. Because really, if you take out the one inning for Yuki Matsui on Friday, which was rough, the Padres bullpen has been awesome as of late. Yesterday, in the 6-4 win, they put together 4 2/3 innings, no earned runs given up. In Friday's game, aside from the Matsui inning, where he gave up 4 runs in 1 inning, Sean Reynolds went a scoreless inning. David Morgan went 2 scoreless innings, so that's 3 innings, no runs given up. Against the Nationals on Wednesday, Padres won that game. Jeremiah Estrada, Adrian Morejon, each a scoreless inning. You look at Tuesday's game against the Nationals, Padres won that game. 6 innings, no earned runs given up between Morejon, Adam, Estrada, and Suarez. So again, aside from that 1 inning for Yuki Matsui on Friday, you take that out, last handful of games, Padres bullpen has been awesome, including a really nice appearance yesterday for Bryan Hoeing, inning and 2/3 scoreless. Out of the bullpen, Hoeing was on 97.3 The Fan on the Gwyn and Chris program on Friday. Hoeing, always a great interview. Here was Bryan Hoeing talking about the process of coming back from dealing with that shoulder injury, going back to spring training.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was strange. I've never dealt with this before, but honestly, it really went back to that first week of the throwing program in the off season when I started throwing in December. After a long year, I took, like I always do, I take some time off to, let my body recover and just build back up from a long season of pitching. And for whatever reason, the first week of throwing in the off season just didn't really feel great. And then, I thought, it's just maybe just a little bit rusty. And so I kept building up. And then I was thinking, at some point it's got to go away, but I kept feeling it in my shoulder. I got to a point where it was like, yeah, this needs to be addressed because spring training is coming up around the corner and I'm not where I need to be. Unfortunately, I feel like I did everything I possibly could. I did everything. I rested, I lifted, I took care of my arm. And unfortunately, it's just the way it is, I guess, the way your body kind of reacts. And so it just lingered on throughout the off season. I tried to push through it. got out to spring training and once again tried to push through it. And it was almost a point where, enough's enough. Let's shut down here. Let's get this figured out because we're thinking long term instead of short term.
Some good insight there from Bryan Hoeing about the process of returning from that shoulder injury. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that. Here was Hoeing on how long it took him to trust that shoulder again while he went through rehab.
What people ask, I think that's more than anything is the mental side of it.
Right.
I was throwing for such a long, extended period of time where I kept feeling something in my shoulder, and then that takes a toll. I'm sure you guys have dealt with it. It takes a toll on you mentally.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It gets to a point where before you go throw, it's almost like you're expecting to feel something again. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, it just comes down to getting it healthy and then not feeling it again. And then the repetition and more reps of having a healthy shoulder, and then your mind can then freely relax and just tell yourself, okay, it's fine. Like you don't need to panic. You don't need to search for it. It's good. It's healthy. So I think when I got to that point where I was able to throw without any pain, and then day after day, throw, wake up the next day and be able to throw again, I think that was a big thing too. Is I could get through the throwing days, but how am I going to wake up the next day and respond? How's the shoulder going to feel? So, like I said, it took a lot of hard work. Like I said, it was some tough days for sure. Being in Arizona, but not with the team and watching these guys play. Obviously, I want to be out there and help the team win. But we're in a good spot now.
As we know, Bryan Hoeing, really a guy who can give you multiple innings. I think it's safe to say he is a long reliever out of the Padres bullpen. Good question on Friday to Bryan Hoeing. The guys asked him, would you ever want to start again one day?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think about it much during the season, but when I do think about, my future, and I think I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't want to be a starter. The Padres were to approach me, and they brought up the idea, I definitely would be interested in that. Now, with that being said, at the end of the day, whatever they need me to be, that's the role I'm going to pitch at. But I've also seen, I've seen Ting, turn into a reliever to a starter, and I know Levitt came up. I think he had a little bit of starts and some bullpen. So I've seen it, and I've seen how the way certain guys have, kind of come out of that relieving role into starters. I'm not saying it's always a successful transition, but you do see those successful stories of bullpen guys going to starters. And I think, I would like to be that one day. But like I said, at the end of the day, whatever I feel like helps the team win, which right now is definitely out of the bullpen, then that's what we're going to roll with.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game. Take a look at the first inning for the Reds today. The Reds lead the major leagues with 63 first inning runs so far. Plus 34 run differential in the opening frame is also the best in the major league. Spencer Steer himself is 8 for 20 with 3 doubles and a home run in the first inning this season. He has been great as of late in general. 425 batting average with 8 extra base hits and 9 RBIs in his last 10 games, including 3 home runs in Friday's game. So keep an eye on that first inning today for Stephen Kolek. Got to try to keep the Reds off the board because, again, whether it's Steer or somebody else, they are very, very good typically in that opening frame. That's what to watch for in this series finale. Let's dive into our pitching matchup between Stephen Kolek and Nick Lodolo.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Right-hander Stephen Kolek on the mound for the Padres today, 28 years old. He has a 3.95 ERA in 10 starts this season, 57 innings. He's been up and down in the month of June. His last start against the Nationals, 4 innings and a third, 5 runs, 4 earned, given up. His start prior against the Dodgers, he was great, 6 innings and a third, 3 earned runs allowed. The start before that against Arizona, 4 innings and a third, 4 earned runs given up on 7 hits. He began the month with a couple of starts of 5 2/3 scoreless innings against the Giants and the Brewers. He made 2 one-out appearances against the Reds in relief last season, but this will be his first start against Cincinnati. Kolek has been a lot better on the road than at home so far. A 2.13 ERA in 7 starts on the road, a 9.20 ERA in 3 starts at home. Left-hander Nick Lodolo on the mound for the Reds today. 7th overall pick by the Reds in 2019 from TCU. Having a good year. 3.63 ERA in 16 starts, 89 innings and a third. He's given up 82 hits. Last start against the Yankees, 4 innings and a third, 1 earned run given up on 6 hits. He struck out 6. He threw 94 pitches. He's been fairly consistent with really only 1 bad outing going back to early May. In his last 9 starts, 5 have been quality outings. The bad one was against the Guardians a couple of weeks ago, gave up 6 runs in just 3 innings and a third. He has some interesting splits. They're reverse. Lefties are hitting 328 against him with an 837 OPS. Righties at just 221 with a 664 OPS. At home, he's got a 506 ERA in 8 starts. On the road, he's got a 231 in 8 starts. So he's not been nearly as good at home as he's been on the road. Faced the Padres last year in late April in San Diego. He was great. 7 innings, 1 run, 1 hit, 11 strikeouts. The only hit he gave up was a home run to Jurickson Profar. This will be his 3rd career start against the Padres. He allowed a home run to Manny Machado in his other start against the Pods back in 2022. As always, thank you for listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft. Since 1925, your water should be perfect. When we come back, Jesse Agler, Tony Gwyn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play in Cincinnati. I'll talk to you post-game on the Padres Radio Network.